Hello, Internet, and welcome back to the story. Nook, good morning on this lovely day, December 17th. I am once again waking up early to, read a chapter of The Wizard of Oz because I forgot to read a page last night. And yesterday we finished chapter 13, The Rescue. Today we're going on to chapter 14, The Winged Monkeys, which starts on 132. Oh, good. I still have that up there. Which is right here. So go ahead, grab your tea, your hot cocoa, your coffee, your water, your alcoholic beverage of choice if you're listening to this after work. And we shall begin. Here we have a winged monkey with his hat, which kind of gives me like marching band circus hat because like it's got a little pom-pom. And this is the cap that Dorothy wears. Not exactly what I thought of in my mind when I heard cap. I heard cap and I thought like ball cap, but that's probably because American. But, you know, there's a lot of different hats. I don't know what we call this kind of hat. But it's got pom-poms, some little glittery things. So nice. You will remember there was no road. Not even a pathway between the castle of the Wicked Witch and the Emerald City. When the four travelers went in search of the witch, she had seen them coming, and so sent the winged monkeys to bring them to her. It was much harder to find their way back through the big fields of buttercups and bright daisies than it was being carried. They knew, of course, they must go straight toward the rising sun, and they started off in the right way. So here, the sun comes from the east, they're in the west, so they're heading towards the center to get to where Oz is. But at noon, when the sun was over their heads, they didn't know which was east and which was west, and that was the reason they were lost in the great fields. They kept on walking, however, and at night the moon came out and shone brightly. So they lay down among the sweet-smelling scarlet flowers and slept soundly until morning. All but the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman. The next morning, the sun was behind a cloud, but they started on as if they were quite sure which way they were going. "If we walk far enough," said Dorothy, "we shall continue to come to some place, I am sure." That's kind of how walking goes. Just not sure it's the some place you want to be. But day by day passed away, and they still saw nothing but before them but the scarlet fields. The Scarecrow began to grumble a bit. "We have surely lost our way," he said, "and unless we find it again in time to reach the Emerald City, I shall never get my brains." "Nor I my heart," declared the Tin Woodman. It seems to me I can scarcely wait till I get to Oz, and you must admit this is a very long journey." "You see," said the Cowardly Lion with a whimper, "I haven't the courage to keep tramping forever without getting anywhere at all." Then Dorothy lost heart. She sat down on the grass and looked at her companions, and they sat down and looked at her. And Toto found that for the first time in his life, he was too tired to chase a butterfly that flew past his head. So he put out his tongue and panted and looked at Dorothy as if to ask what they should do next. "Suppose we called the field mice," she suggested. "They could probably tell us the way to the Emerald City." "To be sure they could," said the Scarecrow. "Why didn't we think of that before?" Dorothy blew the little whistle she had always carried around her neck since the Queen of the Mice had given it to her. In a few minutes they heard the pattering of tiny feet, and many of the small gray mice came running up to her. Among them was the Queen herself, who asked in her squeaky little voice, "What can I do for you, my friends?" "We had lost our way," said Dorothy. "Can you tell us where the Emerald City is?" "Certainly," answered the Queen. "But it is a great way off, for you have had it at your backs all this time." Then she noticed Dorothy's golden cap and said, "Why don't you use the charm of the cap and call the winged monkeys to you? They will carry you to the City of Oz in less than an hour." "I didn't know there was a charm," answered Dorothy in surprise. "What is it?" "It is written inside the golden caps," replied the Queen of the Mice. "But if you are going to call the winged monkeys, we must run away, for they are full of mischief and think it is great fun to plague us." "Won't they hurt me?" asked the girl anxiously. "Oh, no. They must obey the wearer of the cap. Goodbye," and she scampered out of sight with all the mice hurrying after her. "You should explain to her that it is only for 3 times like a genie, but okay." I haven't been awake that long. Dorothy looked inside the golden cap and saw some words written upon the lining. These, she thought, must be the charm, so she read the directions carefully and put the cap upon her head. "Eep, peep, 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 kaki," she said, standing on her left foot. "What did you say?" the scarecrow, who didn't know what she was doing. "Hillo, holo, hello," she went on, standing this time on her right foot. "Hello," replied the Tin Woodman calmly. "Zizi, Zuzi, Zeke," said Dorothy, who was now standing on both feet. This ended the saying of the charm, and they heard a great chattering and flapping of wings, and a band of winged monkeys flew up to them. The king bowed low before Dorothy and asked, "What is your command?" "We wish to go to the Emerald City," said the child, "and we have lost our way." "We will carry you," replied the king, and no sooner had he spoken than the 2 monkeys caught Dorothy in their arms and flew away with her. Others took the scarecrow and the woodman and the lion, and one little monkey seized Toto and flew after them, although the dog tried hard to bite him. The scarecrow and the Tin Woodman were rather frightened at first, for they remembered how badly the winged monkeys had treated them before. But they saw that no harm was intended, so they rode through the air quite cheerfully, and had a fine time looking at the pretty gardens and woods far below them. Dorothy found herself riding easily between 2 of the biggest monkeys, one of them the king himself. So he's riding on this guy's back. She's being carried, so I guess this is his crown. This one's Toto. I still really like these images. Though these monkeys look kind of weird. Like, this one looks very human-like. Sorry, stretching. They had made a chair of their hands and were careful not to hurt her. "Why do you have to obey the charm of the golden cap?" she asked. "That is a long story," answered the king with a laugh. "But as we have a long journey before us, I will pass the time by telling you about it, if you wish." "I shall be glad to hear it," she replied. "Once," began the leader, "we were a free people, living happily in the great forest, flying from tree to tree, eating nuts and fruits, and doing just as we pleased, without calling anybody master. Perhaps some of us were rather too full of mischief at times, flying down to pull the tails of the animals that had no wings, chasing birds and throwing nuts at the people who walked in the forest. But we were careless and happy and full of fun, and enjoyed every minute of the day. This was many years ago, long before Oz came out of the clouds to rule over this land." So we got some history of what Oz once came out of clouds to rule over. And he specifically ruled the land of the West before the Witch of the West took it over. There lived here then, way at the north, a beautiful princess who was also a powerful sorceress. All her magic was used to help people, and she was never known to hurt anyone who was good. Her name was Galette, and she lived in a handsome palace built from great blocks of rubies. Everyone loved her, but her greatest sorrow was that she could find no one to love in return, since all the men were much too stupid and ugly to mate with one so beautiful and wise. At last, however, she found a boy who was handsome and manly and wise beyond his years. Galette made up her mind that when he grew to be a man, she would make him her husband. So she took him to her ruby palace and used all her magic powers to make him as strong and good and lovely as any woman could wish. Galette sounds very sus. Sounds like she found a boy, said, oh, he meets all my criteria, let me raise him and groom him to be the husband I want in the future, and this is wrong. Had this been reversed, we would all be bitching about it. I'm just saying. It's not okay. When he grew to manhood, Quelala, as he was called, was said to be the best and wisest man in all the land. While his manly beauty was so great, Galette loved him dearly and hastened to make everything ready for the wedding. My grandfather was at that time the king of the winged monkeys, which lived in the forest near Galette's palace, and the old fellow loved a joke better than a good dinner. So, the winged monkeys used to live in forests in the north. One day, just before the wedding, my grandfather was flying out with his band when he saw Quelala walking beside the river. He was dressed in a rich costume of pink silk and purple velvet, and my grandfather thought he would see what he could do. At his word, the band flew down and seized Quelala, carried him in their arms until they were out over the middle of the river, and then dropped him into the water. "Swim out, my fine fellow," cried my grandfather, "and see if the water has spotted your clothes." Quelala was much too wise not to swim, and he was not in the least spoiled by all his good fortune. He left when he came to the top of the water and swam in to shore, and when Galette came running over to him, she found his silks and velvet all ruined by the river. The princess was very angry. Well, alarm. I have 2 alarms that are meant to wake me. That is the, hey, you haven't gotten up, you should wake up. Here's Bo Berman. And she knew, of course, who did it. She had all the winged monkeys brought before her, and she said at first that their wings should be tied and they should be treated as they had treated Quelala, and dropped in the river. But my grandfather pleaded hard, for he knew the monkeys would drown in the river if their wings tied, with their wings tied. And Quelala said a kind word for them also, so that Galette finally spared them on the condition that the winged monkeys should never go ever after do 3 times the bidding of the owner of the golden cap. This cap had been made for a wedding present to Quelala, and it is said to have cost the princess half her kingdom. Of course, my grandfather and all the other monkeys at once agreed on the condition. And that is how it happens that we are 3 times the slaves of the owner of the golden cap, whosoever he may be. "And what became of them?" asked Dorothy, who had been greatly interested in the story. "Quelala being the first owner of the golden cap," replied the monkey, "he was the first to lay his wishes upon us. As his bride could not bear the sight of us, he called us all to him in the forest after he had married her, and ordered us always to keep where she could never again set eyes on a winged monkey, which we were glad to do, for we were all afraid of her. I mean, she did threaten to tie your wings and drop you in the river, and that sounds scary as shit, but also you have to consider this woman has done everything for the people, and she can be just as cruel as anybody else. This was all we ever had to do until the golden cap fell into the hands of the wicked witch of the west, who made us enslave the Winkies, and afterward drive Oz himself out of the land of the West. Now the golden cup is yours, and 3 times you have the right to lay your wishes upon us." As the Monkey King finished his story, Dorothy looked down and saw the green, shining walls of the Emerald City before him. She wondered at the rapid flights of the monkeys, but was glad the journey was over. The strange creature set the travelers down carefully before the gate of the city. The king bowed low to Dorothy and then flew swiftly away, followed by all his band. "That was a good ride," said the little girl. "Yes, and a quick way out of our troubles," replied the lion. "How lucky it was you brought away that wonderful cap." 1, 2, 3. She has used 1 wish, and now it's scratched out. She's got 2 more. And then this is the end of this chapter. So thank you all for joining me for chapter 14 of the Wizard of Oz. We got some more lore in here, which I like. I like that we got some more lore. Having lore is nice. It's always great to see. But sorry, I have yawns. I haven't completely woken up. Alright, so everyone make sure you stay hydrated, stay safe, enjoy your holidays. I think Hanukkah is happening right now, or is it happening next week? I don't remember. I think they're lighting candles soon for Hanukkah. I don't remember exactly when it is. I just know it's in December. So, stay safe, stay healthy, have a great time, all that good jazz. Bye-bye.